1.01, the first overall pick in Yahoo ADP is Bengals wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase. You, me, and Justin Boone all have him ranked as the top player. Do you have any concern at all about Ja'Marr Chase this year as the first overall pick?
As you would expect in this exercise, he's the guy I have the least amount of red ink on. It's really hard to nitpick Ja'Marr Chase, which is why he's the consensus 101. All three Yahoo analysts, as you said, and pretty much industry-wide, it seems like Chase is the guy. It's a shootout team. The defense looks bad. And so what would happen? What would have to happen for Chase to disappoint people? Well, I think you have to at least appreciate, it's not going to bump me off Chase at 101, but at least appreciate that when he and Higgins were both on the field last year, there wasn't that big of a difference in their production. So maybe T. Higgins is better than we think. Maybe the gap between the 1 and the 2 is more of a 1 and a 1A, 1B. That's a consideration. Burrow's had some injury problems. They haven't always had the greatest offensive line in Cincinnati. I don't think the defense is going to get better, but it's at least in the realm of possibility. We know the NFL is a snow globe league. We're going to look back at the end of the season and say, oh, wow, you hear a bunch of teams that didn't play as I expected. Defense does not have as much continuity year over year. Of course, I look at what the Bengals did to quote unquote fix their defense, and none of it really resonates with me. I think it's going to be a lousy defense again. I talk about them as a narrow target tree, as a carnival team, all these things that we're trying to focus on, which is why Chase is my 101. But you want to talk him down? Higgins is pretty good. Burrow's had some injury problems. Part of that's been tied to a substandard offensive line, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they fix the defense or at least bump it up to acceptable, although I'm not holding my breath on that.
I'm not holding my breath on that either. I think even if they're better on defense, like, okay, great, they're the 28th best defense in the league instead of maybe 31st or 32nd. So, yeah, I think this team still profiles as – we couldn't do it when we talked about who's this year's carnival team because the Bengals were the carnival team of last year, to use one of your terms, but they fit so cleanly in that regard. I really think the only ways that Chase can fail this year, and I'm talking like bust, not you draft him as wide receiver 1 and he finishes as wide receiver 4 or something like that, is he gets hurt.
You should, by the way, but you should take that, by the way. If you told me Chase was going to be wide receiver 4, I would take that. The goal, yeah, you want him to blow up fantasy, but all you want in the first round is that foundational brick. You want the guy to have a Pro Bowl season, right? If he has the Offensive Player of the Year season, all the better, but just don't get lost in the definitions, right? As long as Chase is good, is really, really good and stays healthy, he's validated where you took him. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I get crazy when people say, oh, I drafted this guy as a wide receiver 3. He was wide receiver 7. That will never hurt you. That's good. Right? You just want that guy to be good. You're going to try to make profit elsewhere in the draft. You really can't make profits in the first round.
Right. You're taking him as the first overall pick. Like you can't go up. You're hoping he's the best player.
You can't make a hole in one and write down 0. It doesn't work like that. Yeah,
exactly. Correct. Yes. Yeah. He can't pick him -1 or something like that. So yeah, I really think again, we can keep it moving here because the only reason I think he fails is a Burrow injury, a Chase injury, and really I think as a player, Chase is getting better every single year. And I think he's one of these guys that works to get better every single year. He's a great player, and I love the way they used him last year. And even if guys like, I don't know, Jermaine Burton actually makes the team and gets playing time, or, Higgins plays an entire year, that just allows them to move Chase around the formation even more, which is just good news for him as a player. But let's keep moving here because I think our second overall pick here, Eagles running back Saquon Barkley. He's the second overall pick, consensus Yahoo ADP, but actually, Scott, none of us, me, you, or Boone, have him ranked as the second overall player. Boone and I have him ranked as the third overall player behind the guy that we'll talk about next in Bijan Robinson. But you have Saquon Barkley ranked as the 6th overall player. So you already kind of have these reasons in your head percolating about why Barkley maybe won't fail, but might be disappointing. Talk about what can go wrong here for Barkley this season.
Yeah, there's 2 stats I really can't unsee. The first one, everybody knows it, including the playoffs, 482 touches, which is just an enormous number. And we're talking about somebody who's headed into his 8th NFL season, had some injury problems, as many running backs do, although it seemed like no running backs other than McCaffrey got hurt last year. But 482 touches, an enormous number. A guy who's already deep into his career. And last year, no 1-yard touchdowns. And his average length of touchdown was 29.4 yards, which is just an unsustainable, unrepeatable, not going to happen again number. So Tush push survived. They tried to get rid of it. They couldn't get rid of it. It's hard to kill. It's a die. Bruce Willis, die hard. The tush push is still here. Jalen Hurts runs it well. The Eagles, they have the offensive line to do it. They have that kind of nerve to keep running it. Like, go ahead and stop it. It's almost like an arrogance to them. And why shouldn't they be? They're really good at a play that is incredibly valuable to keeping the offense efficient and getting those touchdowns you need when you get in close. So I think Barkley's touchdown count is a little bit tenuous, and his workload that he's coming off and where he is in his career. I always want, the longer I play fantasy, the more I want to trend younger. And I get nervous taking these. And I realized last year was a great year for older running backs. And so many guys changed teams, went to better situations. We saw Henry do that. We saw Barkley do that. We saw Jacobs do that. And they were all winners. But I'm nervous to take a guy. When I can take some of these players who haven't had their best season yet, like a Robinson, like a Gibbs, some of these guys who are younger, who are in good situations too, there's no way I'm taking Barkley second overall. And if he fails, it will be because the touchdowns that came in way under expected, or that workload caught up to him.
Yeah, it really was a perfect storm for Barkley last year. Like, last year was the year to draft Saquon Barkley because it was coming at a discount. The Eagles team obviously was a little bit misunderstood. We did not know that they were going to go from a problematic defense to the best, if not just one of the best defenses in football. And that's something that just two things here we're working against. And this is kind of stupid trendsy analysis that I don't really love, Scott. But number one, like, when's the last time the running back won overall repeated? I think it's been quite some time. Secondly, like, we know defensive, and this is like less so trends. This is just the reality of defensive football. It's very, it's not predictive year to year, right? There's a lot of variance year to year in who's the best defenses in the league. I still, like, we ranked top 10 defenses on Football 301. I had the Eagles 3, which is like baking in some kind of defensive regression there, by the way. But again, like, what if the defense, like a couple injuries, like Jalen Carter misses time, that defense becomes a bit of an issue, or like even just an average unit? Are they constantly in the game scripts where they're just leaning on teams in the second half with Saquon Barkley and he's cracking off these big runs? Like, and if they had to do that, I still think they have the personnel to be a really good passing team. They have one of, if not the best wide receiver duos in the NFL, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I've still got, and you're going to hate me for this, Scott, but I've still just got like the tiniest candle lit for Jahan Dotson. Stop you're laughing at me before I even finish the sentence because you know what I'm going to say. But that's fine. I still have like the tiniest candle lit for Jahan Dotson as a nice wide receiver 3. They have an offensive line that can pass block. Like, if they wanted to throw the ball more this year, I think they could. And also, again, not for nothing, they are changing over offensive coordinators again. The last time we saw them do that, go from Shane Steichen to Brian Johnson, it did not go well. Now, I think Kevin Patullo is probably a little bit more up to this job because he's been with Nick Sirianni for a long, long time. He is the passing game coordinator. But again, just these like little slight changing variables can make can make Saquon Barkley like not the running back 1 overall, but somebody that is maybe like a bit of a problematic pick that high in the draft.
So if you were an anti-Barkley guy, could I interest you in Shipley? Could I interest you in A.J. Dillon? Is there a deeper sleeper in this running back room that might find the bottom of your roster?
Based on the camp reports, it's probably Shipley. And honestly, I don't even think that you have to be an anti-Barkley guy to want to take Shipley, right? I mean, just in the very, very, very like late rounds, if you're in a deeper format, you're in one of these 18-round guillotine leagues, like throw Shipley on the end of your 18-team guillotine leagues, throw Shipley on the end of your bench, see what happens, because you just want exposure to this offense. I still think this is going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. Honestly, Scott, like, I don't really have I'm throwing a lot of like devil's advocate things out for Barkley. To me, it's just the touch total 1 year to the next. Like, that's how this goes wrong for Barkley. And I mean, I don't know. I think you're actually accurately accounting for that as like, hey, you still have him as the 6th overall player. You're not saying Barkley's going to be terrible this year. You're just saying like account for some of the risk versus the reward here.
Yeah, I want to bake in some of that. And again, take players who haven't had their best season yet. And as far as Shipley and Dillon and some of these other backs go, everybody seems to have a different opinion on this, but I am not of the mind that you insure your running backs on draft day. I want to get the backups of other people's running backs, and I'll think about that running back insurance in the middle of the season. You want to play for the big inning in August. You want to play for the more specialized situation. Maybe when is backup running back season for me? Maybe it's late October, early November, when you have a lot. And also by then we should know who the clear number 2 is on most teams anyway. So that also helps that definition. But I would say don't share your running backs in August, but I'd be willing to do that in the right situation in October.
All right, let's jump to the third overall pick in Yahoo Consensus ADP. That is Falcons running back Bijan Robinson, who, again, me, you, and Boone are all in lockstep. We have him ranked as the second overall pick, our running back one. And Scotty, if somebody came to me and said, hey, Harmon, like, I want to take Robinson first in the draft, I wouldn't fight you over it. I think, like, look, has he had that season yet in his career where he is the 2024 version of Saquon Barkley, where he is the Niners Christian McCaffrey version? Like, he hasn't quite had that yet, but I don't know, Scott. I look at this guy, I watch him play. He could totally do that. I actually think there are ways where the Falcons' run game can get better this year. But again, our job here today is to be a little devil's advocate. How can it go wrong for Robinson as a top 3 selection here? And I might be asking you to stretch because we're bullish on this guy.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I just want to talk him up. I just want to, as you said, I would not talk anybody out of taking Robinson 101. That's how confident I am on him. And we saw Zach Robinson, their offensive coordinator, struggle with the play sheet early in the season, but he really got cooking in the middle of the year. And of course, they made a quarterback change. So what could go wrong? Maybe Michael Penix isn't that good. What could go wrong? Maybe the defense is awful. That NFC South, we keep talking about that division. It's going to be a high-scoring division. Obviously, you only play 6 divisional games, but those NFC South games are going to have a primary spot in my TV lineup because it's just going to be the first team to 35 wins. So I'm all for that. Robinson, of course, can play in all packages. Tyler Algier is a pretty good backup. He's somebody who's going to have a role. It's not going to be – Robinson isn't going to be like Chase Brown was last year. He never comes off the field. You think like Matt Forte in his heyday, some of these backs. The bell cow is kind of a dead thing. I'm not sure they'll really treat him as a bell cow, but he'll still have high usage when you compare him to the rest of the league, just with the shape of things are going. The running game has made a big comeback in recent years. Defensive fronts are getting lighter. They're saying, go ahead, run the ball. And the offense is saying, yeah, we'll do just that. Obviously, Robinson was drafted to be a primary player. So how does it fall apart? Obviously, any running back has a high injury risk, so you have to consider that. I'm not telling you anything there. Maybe Zach Robinson, maybe it was a mirage that he kind of got cooking in the second half. Maybe Algier plays a little bit more than we think. Maybe the defense isn't quite up to snuff and they have to throw the ball more than they want to. But I'm saying this, my heart isn't really in it. I want you to draft Bijan Robinson. I just want to leave you with that.
My heart's not in it either. I actually think that Michael Penix being like, people think about Michael Penix as a vertical passer, right? And he is. Like, he wants to throw down the field. He's aggressive. We're going to talk about another Falcons player here when we get to my top 12 that I'm extremely excited about, and it's not Kyle Pitts. It's a different pass catcher there. But Michael Penix actually gets to his check down pretty quickly because he is not like, he's an athletic guy. He ran a fast 40, but he's not a scrambler. Like, he does not want to take off and run. He wants to hang in the pocket and rip it downfield, but he's actually pretty smart about reading things out and getting to that check down. And I think that check down is going to be Bijan Robinson a lot. Like, I think he is going to catch more passes this year than we've ever seen before. And I'll give you one other positive note here on Bijan Robinson. You see how I tossed you for the negative stuff and I didn't pick any of it back up? I was like, I'll just go positive here on Robinson. Super unfair hosting by me. Last year, the Falcons had 71% of their runs. They were zone concept runs last year, according to Fantasy Points data. That was first in the league by a freaking mile. The second was Arthur Smith's Pittsburgh Steelers at just under 60%, of course. But the Falcons actually had the highest success rate on gap runs last year at 61%. So, and gap runs typically seed more big plays. Like, that's something where we talk about, hey, Bijan Robinson needing to hit more home runs to really reach that next fantasy ceiling. If they just, hey, year 2 of the offense, we install a little more tweaks in the run game. We've seen Zach Robinson comes from the Rams. They eventually did that there. Shoot, we're cooking with some more bigger plays for Robinson. So, yeah, Scott and I are in lockstep here. Robinson is well worth this third overall ADP, and it's someone that we want you hammering in drafts if you get one of those picks.
And he was, for the last 2/3 of last season, I mentioned Robinson kind of struggling, Zach Robinson kind of struggling with the play sheet early in the year, and Cousins limited their playbook as well. Over the last 2/3 of the season, Bijan Robinson was a running back too. We've already seen it. You don't even need to like make a speculative, imagine it thing. I feel like it's already happened.